Welcome back. What is first language acquisition theory? In the sense of first language acquisition, however, it refers to the acquisition, unconscious learning of one's native language or languages in the case of bilinguals during the first 6 or 7 years of one's life, roughly from birth to the time one starts school. First language acquisition refers to the way children learn their native language. Babbling is now considered the earliest form of language acquisition because infants will produce sounds based on what language input they receive. Imagine a blank template, a light sheet of paper. That's how human being begins. From a crying baby in a cradle to babbling to simple soul words, little by little progressing into two words. Then finally, an entire sentence. Ever ask yourself how one acquires the opportunity to produce the dialect? Linguists through the entire ages have tried to find out how does one acquire a language. Is it a deep composition as claimed by Kimball, or is it an innate ability, a built-in human capacity propagated by Chomsky? On the other hand, a second language acquisition is taught by linguists as the process of acquiring a language with exposure while youthful. First language is defined as the primary language, not always mother tongue, which the speaker's initial acquires and use a continuous basis. According to Lindbergh 1967, the vocabulary that one picks up during the vital period will generally get the person's first terminology. The Canadian census agrees that the first word that one acquires during childhood is his first language. So, second language, on the other hand, can be quite a related language or a completely several one from the initial language. Language acquisition is definitely a cognitive method. Cognitive method, reasoning, perception, judgment, and memory of acquiring a language. It is often done subconsciously with our brain, slowly but surely structuring the template to mold the words into shape. Dialect learning, however, means a person is trying to learn the vocabulary unconsciously through practice, training, and experience. So, what is first language acquisition theory and what is meant by language acquisition? First language acquisition. Modern linguists have been trying hard to crack the codes which govern the acquisition and learning of a language. Theories ranging from Jean Piaget's cognitive theory 1929, Skinner's behaviorist theory 1957 to Chomsky's the innateness hypothesis and Lambert's critical period hypothesis 1967 for first language acquisition, and finally Krashen's fifth hypothesis of second vocabulary learning have paved a means for an insight, a way to unravel what sort of mind works in obtaining and learning words which are actually distinct in one another. And here we are looking at the theories that contain being the workhorse of language acquisition and learning. What is critical period hypothesis in second language acquisition? The critical period hypothesis is the subject of a long-standing debate in linguistics and language acquisition over the extent to which the ability to acquire language is biologically linked to age. So, in second language acquisition research, the critical period hypothesis CPH holds that the function between learner's age and their susceptibility to second language input is non-linear. What is the critical period of brain development? More. Critical period is a developmental stage during which the nervous system is especially sensitive to environmental stimuli. If during this period the organism doesn't receive the appropriate stimuli required to develop a given function, it may be difficult or even impossible to develop that function later in life. What are the three theories of language learning? Nativist, interactionist. The most well known theory about language acquisition is the nativist theory, which suggests that we are born with something in our genes that allows us to learn language. It proposes that there is a theoretical language acquisition device laid somewhere in our brains that is responsible for learning a language the same way the hypothalamus is responsible for maintaining your body temperature. If language was partly biological, it could explain why humans seem to have far more complicated communication patterns than any other species. Interactionism approach. The interactionist approach, socio-cultural theory, combines ideas from sociology and biology to explain how language is developed. According to this theory, children learn language out of a desire to communicate with the world around them. Language emerges from and is dependent upon social interaction. The interactionist approach claims that if our language ability develops out of a desire to communicate, then language is dependent upon whom we want to communicate with. This means the environment you grow up in will heavily affect how well and how quickly you learn to talk. The 5 stages of second language acquisition. Students learn a second language move through 5 predictable stages: pre-production, early production, speech emergence, intermediate fluency, and advanced fluency. Gresham and Terrell, 1983. SLA, second language acquisition. Second language acquisition, or SLA, has 2 meanings. In a general sense, it is a term to describe learning a second language. More specifically, it is the name of the theory of the process by which we acquire or pick up a second language. This is mainly a subconscious process which happens while we focus on communication. It can be compared with language learning, which describes how formal language education helps us learn language through more conscious processes. Thank you. All the best.